Good morning. How's everyone? Excellent. It's been a while since you've asked me questions, so go ahead. So that's is everyone ready? Yeah, excellent. Well, today we have a really exciting announcement for Cairns and the Cape. The Palaszczuk government is partnering with REX Airlines to deliver extra flights between Cairns, Mornington Island and Normanton. These will be additional flights on Monday and Friday, which are the busiest days. They're when people come down from the Cape to their health appointments during the week, or when they really want to get home for the weekend after they've been discharged from hospital. Of course, people travelling for work or to study. Monday and Fridays are busy days, and these are extra flights.
Call for remaining guests travelling to Sydney on flight BA 1416. If you're yet to board for this service, please make your direct way to gate number 20. Once again, those travelling to Sydney on flight BA 1416, boarding for this service is now closing.
Who's the airport?
These are the dangers of an airport press conference. Obviously, Friday and Monday are also great days to get tourists out onto the Cape and show them just how incredible Outback and Cape Queensland is. It's a great chance to get out there and see parts of Queensland that might otherwise be hard to see. For locals, this is part of the subsidised fare scheme, the Queensland Government subsidised fare scheme, ensuring we can make it affordable for those who need to travel, as I say, for healthcare, for their work, for education, all of the reasons why they might need to move about. Of course, REX is a fantastic Queensland airline. It's awesome to be joined here by some of the staff and by Steve, the CEO. But I might ask Michael Healy, who along with Cynthia Liu have been really strong advocates of getting extra flights out to these regions after having heard from locals how important it is. This will also help us ensure those towns are well stocked with supplies, adding extra freight capability. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Good morning, everybody. It's terrific having the Acting Premier and Deputy Premier here, along with Steve, Sophia and Julie from REX, and this is a fantastic announcement. One of my responsibilities as the Assistant Minister for Tourism Industry Development is expanding tourism in regional areas. This announcement puts over 150 plus extra seats a week into some fantastic developing areas like the Cape. This is an area that has been concentrated on by the state government, and I can say that today's announcement is fantastic news, not just for those communities also, but it's great for Cairns Airport. Not only are we the gateway to the Great Barrier Reef, but we are also the gateway to the beautiful Cape and the developing areas up there. This provides significant opportunities and it creates further investment from a tourism perspective outside of the real necessity, which is ensuring people in those beautiful communities get access to a lot of the services down here, particularly our health service. So a fantastic announcement and something that we continue to build on. And I want to acknowledge the Deputy Premier and the government, because we've been pushing for this, and to get this announcement is fantastic news. I'll hand over to Steve from REX. Thank you.
Thanks, Michael, and Deputy Premier. Thanks very much for coming up for this announcement. I'll be very brief. REX have been operating this golf services in partnership with state government since the 1st of January 2015. We've just recently had an extension to that contract for another 5 years, which started 1st of January last year. And when we began these services, we had 4 return flights a week operating into the Gulf communities. That grew to 5, and now this announcement makes it 6. And it doesn't sound like huge numbers, but that capacity growth is very important for all the reasons Michael just mentioned. And I know this news will be extremely well received with those communities. So congratulations to the state government. Thank you, and thank you all.
Well, Steve, any questions?
Most of those areas out in the Gulf, people need cars, need to get around. Is getting tourists out there by flight really going to increase numbers that much? Do you have any stats on the number of people that are currently going out there by flight to tourist regions?
Yeah, I might let Michael address that. His tourism expertise is greater than mine, but as I understand it, the current flights are very close to capacity, and so this will give additional capacity to get people out there, and I'm sure word will spread. It's coming off a relatively low base, so we don't need to get many people out there to start to see a real economic contribution. Do you want to add to that one?
And actually that's a really good question, because from a tourism perspective, obviously seasonal, not at the moment. But it's predominantly a drive market, whereas what we will see is as we get greater aviation access into regions, what that does is it allows international and domestic wholesalers to put packages together. Wholesalers work closer with airlines than they do with a lot of the drive companies. So if people can get in their own cars and drive, that's less economically attractive for an international or a domestic wholesaler. By having that aviation connection, wholesalers can then start looking at packaging up accommodation, activities and transport. So all of a sudden that presents growing opportunities. So it's a little bit like a jigsaw. This is a really important part of that jigsaw, outside of the really important things of getting people access to the services here in Cairns and the region.
How much contribution would you hope that Gulf communities and Peninsula, those sort of areas that don't get a lot of tourism at the moment, could potentially get from this building and tourism?
Well, I actually think that there is a lot of work going on. Steve, whilst working at REX, also sits on the Outback Tourism Board, and they are doing a lot of work with wholesalers to ensure that there are products available. So there are people up in the Gulf in a wide range of areas that understand the importance and currently work with tourism operators. So as they see those opportunities grow, I expect that you could then expect to see further opportunities for investment to happen. But what we do know is it's a very strong demand for that product up there, and this was another opportunity in building access to that region.
Question for the acting Premier.
Sure.
Just in relation to the shooting in Inala yesterday afternoon, the four people were taken into custody for children. Do you concede that the government has lost control of the crime in Queensland?
Well, I understand police have held their own press conference this morning, and so I'll leave the details of that incident to them and that statement. But what we have been doing is putting additional police on the ground to address these kinds of crimes. And here in the Cairns region, Far North, there are 90 additional police on the ground thanks to the initiatives we've introduced. Now, what we've said consistently is that we will listen to the advice of police and our agencies, and if they say they need additional tools and additional resources to fight these kinds of crime, then we will give them to them. And that is precisely why, 2 or 3 weeks ago, the Premier announced 10 new initiatives directly aimed at addressing these kinds of crimes, and we are hard at work now implementing those.
What do you tell victims of crimes or people who may become victims while we wait for the government to introduce those measures? We've got 5 weeks until Parliament sits. Is that enough time?
Well, only some of those measures require legislative change. Those that don't include resourcing for the courts to ensure that sentences occur faster, that kind of thing. So we will expedite the implementation of those initiatives while we also prepare those new laws which will be introduced at the first sitting of the Parliament.
Are you seeking a briefing on how the young people got hold of the gun and who owned it?
Throughout the incident, we received briefings from police on the ground via the police service, via the police minister. Obviously, we'll continue to receive information, and police have made a range of information available publicly. I understand they had a press conference earlier this morning. I haven't been able to see that yet.
What is the latest on securing officer treatment with employee from Gladstone in terms of maternity this month?
So I'm really pleased to advise that the locum who we have been negotiating with in recent weeks has now signed a contract and has a start date. So that's really promising for health services in Gladstone. You'll recall we've been discussing how that additional locum will allow us to return to 24/7 services at Gladstone Hospital. And so we're really pleased that they'll be coming on board. Their anticipated start date is the 30th of January. So on the 30th of January, we will, we hope, be able to return to, we will be able to get to phase 2 of that planned return to full maternity services with the additional locum. From there, we will continue to onboard the 4 obstetricians who we've recruited. Some of them are coming from overseas. That will take some time for us to get them here. We anticipate to be back to that full complement of 10 obstetricians around the middle of the year. Oh, absolutely. Yvette Darth is an excellent health minister working very, very hard in what is a challenging portfolio. Queensland Health is enormous, it's complex and complicated. Often issues get boiled down to simple slogans and headlines by the opposition and by the media, but I know just how hard Yvette is working every single day, and I have absolute confidence in her. There's no harder job than being the health minister. I know that, and she is working incredibly hard. She's incredibly passionate. She is proud to serve alongside the more than 100,000 Queenslanders who go to work every single day with the motivation to serve Queenslanders, to keep them safe and healthy and to take care of them when they're sick.
What's the government doing about the health workforce shortages when there's 15% vacancies in many regional and rural areas?
Well, health is not alone. There are worker shortages across most of our industries, but we continue to compete in the national and global market to attract already trained clinicians, and we continue to work with the universities and the Australian government to increase the rates of training of all of our health professionals because we need more and we need to train more of them here. We also know that if we train them in the regions, they are more likely to work in the regions and be happy to work in the regions. That's why we're investing in medical schools right across the state and training not just in Brisbane and the southeast, but in regional areas as well, because it's absolutely critical that we train more here. Of course, that takes time. You can't instantly create an obstetrician, and so while we work to increase the number of training places, increase the number of people going into specialties, increasing our other health professional staff, while we aim to increase the number who are being produced and trained, we also need to recruit them from overseas. I'm not sure what you mean. How do you mean close the gap?
Well, I understand that there's a cost gap paying for the gap of redevelopment over budget. Still looking at taking funds from other infrastructure projects such as Brisbane Live. Are you aware of that?
No, that's not my understanding. We had a very productive meeting yesterday with the Australian Government's Infrastructure Minister, as well as the Commonwealth Treasurer, Jim Chalmers. He's of course a Queenslander and very close to what our plans are for the Olympic and Paralympic Games. We're working through the final details of a funding arrangement that will see us deliver what will be fantastic venues for what will be a fantastic Games.
What's the latest on weather and damage assessments?
Yeah, so we have already declared. Can I keep going, or is it? Yeah, is it okay? We have already declared 14 local government areas for disaster assistance. That means we will continue to work with them to assess damage and determine the best way to get it fixed and back and operating quickly. We are working through the process of declaring Mackay and local government areas around Mackay after the rainfall they saw earlier in the week. What those declarations mean is that the Queensland and Australian government will then together reimburse those councils for both what they had to do to get their communities prepared, what they had to do to respond during the disaster event, as well as what they need to do to repair now. I understand most of the damage is roads, landslips, that kind of thing. And so as the councils go about getting them open in the first sense and then properly repaired in the second sense, we'll now be able to reimburse them for those costs.
Will the state government help in getting some of those local government areas open again that can't access supplies?
TMR are working really closely with the local governments on how to get the roads reopened. The Bruce Highway both ways outside of Mackay was reopened yesterday morning. I understand Proserpine Airport reopened around lunchtime yesterday. We have at both local levels and at a state level supply chain committees who work with, for example, the grocery stores to make sure that we're able to get goods into places that are isolated. Some will be isolated for another couple of days, and to make sure that everywhere is well stocked. We continue to expect thunderstorms, monsoonal rain right through the Far North, Cape and Torres, and so we're continuing to make sure that they're well prepared. They're very, very wet catchments, so they're responding really quickly. Well, the opposition might like to think they're the source of data, but they aren't. We are continuing to work to invest in our health services to deliver more and even better health services for Queenslanders. That's what this government has always done. Now there are challenges in doing that. Demand is growing greater than population. We've just been through a fourth wave of COVID, which has impacts on the hospital system. We peaked at about 550 hospitalisations. So that's the equivalent of taking a medium-sized hospital out of the hospital system. We are responding to that. Our health staff are working very, very hard to catch up on those elective surgeries. And of course, in the most urgent of cases, they all get seen very quickly. All of our hospitals are able to schedule out-of-hours appointment times. They work to the capacity of their theatres and their staff availability. They're very, very good at making sure they do that. And of course, we also, where possible, utilise private hospitals. We purchase from them services so that we can make sure people are seen just as quickly as possible.
The New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern has just announced her resignation and is saying she won't recontest after next election and the final day in office will be February 7th. What's your response to that?
I didn't know that.
Just happened.
Oh, wow. I hadn't heard that. Jacinda has been an inspiring young woman, I'm sure, for millions of young people, not only in New Zealand but also in Australia. And I think the way she's been able to handle that job locally and also on the world stage while also having a family, she's been quite incredible. I just wish her all the best. I know certainly before she was Prime Minister, she used to love to holiday in Queensland, and so after her resignation, we'd welcome her and her family here to revisit just how great Queensland is.
Nick Meadow wants your government to remove protections from legislators which prevents them from being identified. What are your thoughts?
We've said we'll do that. So we've accepted that recommendation that we should look at those what I consider archaic and anachronistic laws. The Attorney General is working on that right now.
And just in breaking news now, just two of those teenagers have been charged, the third being abortion. Do you think that's tough enough penalties after what the police experienced yesterday?
Look, I'm sure that the police are applying what they consider to be the most appropriate actions in those circumstances. I'm not going to question the decisions that our police make there. They know the circumstances far better than I do, and they know what they're doing. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Well done. Thanks.
Jacinda.
Yeah,
I
Jacinda.
didn't know that.